Guys, Black Scout Survival, late night live. Thanks for tuning in. So, if you guys recall, I spoke about this a few months ago. A special operations officer who had shot and killed a utility worker on private property in Moore County in May. Now, this is outside of Fort Bragg, and he was now found to be justified under the state's Castle Doctrine, according to the Moore County Sheriff's Office. Now, just to clarify, I revealed this earlier on that this was apparently a colonel or commander in CAG, also known as Delta Force in the civilian world. So this gentleman here, let me pull this photo up. Ramzan Darov, 35 years old, was found taking photographs on the soldier's rural property as the sun was setting around his house on May 3rd. Now, the news broke by way of Facebook. Believe it or not, the Moore County Sheriff's Office decided that this would be best suited to be revealed on Facebook, not hold a conference, not released to the newspapers. No, we'll just post it on Facebook. And you can see the post here. I guess it's a good way to try to keep it quiet. Now, it says the homeowner's actions were deemed justifiable under the North Carolina Castle Doctrine, which allows for the use of defensive force in situations where there is perceived imminent threat to personal and family safety within one's home or property. Now, if you recall, Darov is a immigrant from Chechnya, and he was working for a utility contractor as part of Brightspeed's fiber optic expansion in the Carthage area. Now, whenever I dug into Brightspeed, it's majority owned by none other than Vanguard. Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street all own each other. So it's essentially BlackRock. Now, at the time of the shooting, Darov was wearing, listen to this, a burgundy t-shirt, black shorts, and flip-flops, and was taking photos, what he says, of a utility pole with his cell phone. Now, initially, if he was working, why would he not be in uniform? And then why would he not be working during normal business hours? And a lot of people before said, well, they work at different times. Apparently, from what this company says, they only work during business hours, normal business hours. But he was wearing flip-flops, not even boots, not even tennis shoes. He had zero identification, no company truck, and was working at dusk. Now, if you look at, I dug into the company here, and this is what they wear. They have company trucks, and they wear these bright vest shirts. Okay. This is the company that he worked for, which is their common utility attire, they call it. And I'm going to talk about their company in a moment. We'll bring this back up. But he was taking photos around 115 feet from the Delta commander's house. Now, digital evidence has confirmed that he was taking pictures of the power poles in the direction of the residence. So the question is, was he really taking photos of the residence or just behind the power poles so he was facing the residence? Obviously, with the state of the world right now, a Delta commander is a high value target when you're looking at Russia. And I know there's a lot of people that are pro-Russia, probably people watching this pro-Russia, but you have to understand, being an American, you are an enemy of Russia because of the people that's in charge. It's the same way as you view the Chinese Communist Party as the enemy, and you view most Chinese as the enemy because that is the way it works. So regardless, whatever you believe, you being American are outright the enemy, and that's how they perceive it, especially if you're a Delta Force commander. Now, and being so that we've had American troops within Afghanistan involved in Ukraine, I think it's and they tried to cover it up, but there were tons of troops there. Now, Was he taking pictures of the residents just behind the power poles? Because the way it's described from the evidence on the phone is that he was getting the property in the shots. Now, the only identification that he didn't even have a work identification. The only one he had was a international driver's license. International driver's license. So then they found it in his Chevrolet Spark parked nearby that was registered to him in Chicago, registered to him in Chicago where he lived. Now, the first question I have is they couldn't find a closer worker to work in North Carolina than a Chechen immigrant that lived in Chicago. Anyway, 2 hours before the shooting, a sheriff's deputy spotted Darov walking along power poles near an isolated field less than a mile from where Dowd Road incident later occurred. The deputy questioned Darov and about his activities and requested that he move his vehicle. Darov provided his only identification, which was an international driver's license. He didn't have any work clothing or anything like that on him. But he told the officer, the sheriff, that he was conducting utility work in flip-flops. And he used a language translation app because he could not speak English. So he had no utility attire. He had no work identification. He was not in a work vehicle. He was in flip-flops, shorts, and didn't have a U.S. identification card. Do we not think that law enforcement should dig into someone that doesn't have a U.S. ID, that doesn't speak English, walking along American electrical infrastructure? Shouldn't we be asking some questions? Now let's go to the confrontation. The soldier's wife made calls to 911 dispatch, the first one being at 8:12 p.m. And she reported that her husband had confronted a man taking photographs of their family's very isolated property. Apparently, they're very isolated. She noted that there was a language barrier and claimed that Darov was aggressive. The sheriff's officer said the soldier was unarmed at the moment, the commander, when he first spoke to Darov. Unable to establish who Darov was or why he was on the property, the homeowner asked him to leave. And now listen to this. At this point, Darov repeatedly asserted that he was a Chechen national who served in the Russian military and fought in Ukraine. Let me tell you that again. He repeatedly asserted that he was a Chechen national who had served in the Russian military and fought in Ukraine. That's when the commander said, a professional held to the gnaw, I'm going back to the house and grabbing my firearm. And he retrieved a handgun from his home and went back to engage Darov. Now, in the second call, it was at 8:25, so we're looking at just within 13 minutes, the wife was much more urgent that officers get to their residence. Now, more on the wife, and I want you to listen to this lady. She's been locked on. She says, I really need the cops here. We've got people on our property. Please hurry, she pleaded. As the dispatcher explained that officers were on another call, which the sheriff's officer said in a statement that it was a life-threatening medical call. So the officers were at a life-threatening medical call in this moment. The wife is heard in the recording speaking to someone else saying, I need a rifle quick. Get it quick, she said. So I'm assuming that the wife is telling the kids, go get her a rifle. And when she means rifle, I'm sure she means an AR-15. So the husband obviously has her very locked on, very trained, as he should. So then she was heard telling the same person people, the kids, I guess, to go inside and shut the door. And so the dispatch says, ma'am, can you still see your husband? She says, yes, but please hurry, the woman said. A moment later, she added, there are people like advancing on our property. Officials said the encounter turned deadly when Darov reportedly became agitated and lunged at the commander after repeatedly refusing to leave the property. It would be 20 minutes after that call before deputies arrived. And they found him, Darov, 115 feet from the commander's residence. Now, digging a little bit deeper, Darov was employed by Cable Warriors, which is a subcontractor of Utilities One, and was conducting surveys as part of Brightspeed's fiber optic expansion into the Carthage area. So he was supposedly conducting surveys, but had no equipment. He had no equipment, by the way, no uniform. He was just out there taking pictures with a cell phone of this commander's property. Now, again, Brightspeed is owned by Vanguard, BlackRock, and all those sort of things. Now, when I looked into the Utilities One, it is Russian owned, completely Russian owned. You see these guys here, Russian owned and operated. They're based out of New Jersey. Okay, so apparently they subcontracted to another group. But who do you think Russian nationals have loyalty to? Who is painted as their enemy right now because of Ukraine? And that's what I was getting back to when I saw some people disagree with me. You obviously don't know how the world works if you disagree with that. If you don't understand how the world works, when you are an enemy to a country, they are fed propaganda to hate you. They hate you because they're fed propaganda to hate you. That's how conflict happens. Think about the little Taliban children that are trained from birth to hate infidels. That's the way it works. So who do you think Russian nationals have loyalty to? So Russian nationals own Utility One. Now, when I looked into Cable Warriors, the subcontractor of Utilities One, I literally couldn't find anything. Not even a phone number. It's obviously some type of shell company. The only thing I found was a woman that is supposedly in charge of something that was just previously a cashier at a restaurant. So this tells me, I'm guessing here, this is my theory, this is a shell company, and they were conducting some type of surveillance, maybe planning some kind of kinetic action, but something was going on here. This close just so happens you're working on all these power lines, but you're just so happening taking pictures of a Delta Force commander's residence. Now, again, other workers in the Cable Warriors, somebody said clever, exactly. When you look at what the other utility industry workers told investigators, that conducting utility work near dark or near private property, especially during a non-emergency activities without identifying clothing and without notifying the homeowner, is not a common practice ever, unless it's an emergency. They say, like it's an emergency, like the power line gets hit. But outside of that, they don't work in this because of OSHA and not working in low light conditions where risk of injury are much higher. And they always wear this clothing because it's apparently OSHA mandated. Now, the sheriff's office said, now this is the thing, that their sheriff's office said this, not the FBI, and they've tried to talk to the FBI. But the sheriff's office said they're continuing to assess the operational background of Utilities One and Cable Warriors, the subcontractor, again, who Darov was working for. They said investigators are also reviewing digital evidence containing electrical infrastructure maps. Listen to this. Listen to me. Investigators are reviewing digital evidence containing electrical infrastructure maps related to the utility expansion provided to the employees from a Russian cloud server, which they say may provide further insights into subcontractors' activities. So we have Chechen nationals here working on critical U.S. infrastructure, and they have the infrastructure maps on a Russian cloud server. So, the Russians have access to utility infrastructure on a Russian cloud server. So the supposed utility company and subcontractors reeks of something more sinister, guys. It really does. Especially given the proximity of Fort Bragg, given this is a Delta Force commander, this reeks. There's something so much more to this. You know, all those guys coming through the southern border, this is what I think is happening. And there's tons of shell companies happening. I think that you have companies like BlackRock, George Soros, all these people that are funding this stuff. Look in your neighborhood. Dude, I live in the South, in the country. It's not even recognizable anymore. These people didn't grow up here. They didn't grow up here. You don't even see, like, previous in growing up, it was majority white, black, Hispanic. Now it's people from everywhere. Everywhere. There's less white, black, and Hispanic than anything. You can't tell me this is not by design. It absolutely is. Good that the commander is not being charged. Great. Good for Castle Doctrine. I'm happy to hear that. I didn't think you would. A commander in Delta Force knows what he's doing. F around and find out. He knows what he's doing. Anyway, yeah, they're replacing people is what they're doing. It's like they've been saying. They've been saying this for years. They've been saying. So what do you have to do? What you have to do is be very cognizant of your home. I know some guys that watch me have very serious jobs. You know what I mean? And, military guys that are doing it, be very aware. And I know I don't have to tell you this, but your family. And I probably don't have to tell you that either, because you probably got your wife and kids locked on like this commander does. You got to stay frosty, though. Stay strapped, stay dangerous. I mean, that's serious. It's not a joke. That's not a punchline. It's serious. I say it every time to remind you and to remind myself we always have to be, because it's easy to get complacent. It's easy when you don't have freaking explosions going on around you to think everything's okay. Things are not okay, guys. I do want to mention one more time to upgrade your EDC. It gets dark every single day. Our flashlight, my design, the BSS V5, you can get on pre-order right now. It is the 6th iteration. Comes with this removable strike bezel, so you can take off, put on your finger, wear it like a ring when you go through security checkpoints, and then you can place it back on. I forgot to mention last night, it's designed to be worn. So if you get a flat tire, like I commonly do, I'm a notorious for this. I have like the worst tire luck in history, but it has a 2-way pocket clip. So the pocket clip goes in your pocket, but you can also clip it onto the bill of your hat. If I can get it on, there we go. So you can clip it onto the bill of your hat. So if you're working on your truck, you got to change a flat in the middle of the night, you can light that bad boy up. I got it on the very low setting, so I didn't blind you. But go pick them up. $40 right now on pre-order. Save 20% with code BSS V6 2024. And I'll put the link down in the description pinned. Long range, high power, adjustable modes. It has rechargeable capability, so a recharge port here. It comes with the cables and stuff. 2,000 lumens at the highest, and it's waterproof. Everything you need. It gets dark every day. And guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this. I'm curious. Maybe you guys have more insights. If you're a utility worker, please share it with us. I love to hear whenever you guys that actually do those jobs can tell us more about those sort of things. And like Chocolate Thunder said, join the tribe, become part of the team. And guys, remember to stay frosty, stay strapped, and stay dangerous. Take care.